So the first thing that we'll do is just a quick summary into my experience, then progression journey snapshot of how I have progressed from developer role back into the program management role now, and then what is program management in a nutshell. I'll also do a quick poll with you all today, and then look into different roles. So because there are familiar or similar sounding roles that we all hear these days, so that's why I've tried to put a pictorial representation for better understanding. Then also going to the key activities which are performed by program manager. Then why is it important to be going above and beyond in any role as such, but particularly in program management, why is it important? Then also the approach to handling different programs, and finally the common challenges and resolutions that we see. So, just a quick summary of my experience. I come with 15 years of diverse experience across different technologies, platforms, domains, and varied dimensions of handling people, geographies, complex organizational projects, programs, and organizational culture specifically. So, I'll expand upon some of these topics as we get into more detailed discussion on why these pointers play a very important role during your journey as a program manager.
Shreeya, can you please put it on presentation mode? You have
Oh, is it not?
Not yet. Thanks.
Oh, really? I'm actually presenting it. Not sure if you're not able to see
There's
the full screen.
on the left panel, there is a document recovery panel opening. If you can close that.
Okay, I'm not sure why is it coming because on the laptop it's showing the full screen.
Okay.
Should I try
Yeah, if you
again?
want, restart sharing if you want to try.
Surely, yeah, okay.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt and spoil the flow.
No problem. Is this better now?
If you're sharing, so maybe you want to put it on full screen or just share the screen altogether, then not just the app. Maybe it's
Oh,
just
yeah,
showing the
maybe because
PPT
of
view.
that.
That's probably happening.
Sure. Okay, let me just do that. I'll try to share the entire screen maybe, and then let's see if you are able to see it.
Yes, this is working. Thank you. Please go
Okay,
ahead.
great. Yeah, thank you for informing you on that. Yeah, thanks. So the next thing that I wanted to just cover was the progression journey. It's a quick snapshot that I wanted to share on the journey that I've had so far. So basically, I started fresh from campus as a Siebel CRM developer back in 2007 and learned the tools for the trade on the job really. Acquired the knowledge around the platform. So that is, I think it's a paramount that we, and a very important factor really. While dealing with any program, if you do have a technical knowledge and a hands on the particular platform, that takes you long way really. And because you understand the ecosystem much better, you understand the participating teams, and it becomes very easier for you to resolve any challenges coming on the management, on the delivery side of things. Then I picked up the CTI IVR skills very early in my career, because that's where I got opportunity to got associated to those skill sets. Then navigated my way into the Siebel product config, Siebel ordering, and even the integration projects. And that is where I started leading these Siebel projects and managing end-to-end Siebel program as well. Also, on the way, I started working on the business analysis skills of things, like requirement gathering, interaction with the customers, also ensuring that you have the full documentation on the projects like FDD, LLDs, and all of the details, the BRDs, and everything that we have worked, right? All of us are aware of those things. So that is where got into the BA side of things, the management side of things, and then finally I moved on to get into more cloud based systems like Oracle CPQ. And one of the largest or the most highlight of my career has been managing one of the largest ever Salesforce and Oracle CPQ program, which we did for one of the industrial customers in the US. So on the way, I also managed some Salesforce Sales Cloud implementations. And finally, I also got opportunities to start managing vendor teams. Also got into managing the partners and even some of the customer specific IT teams as well. I've managed a lot of deliveries across different teams like Salesforce, Oracle, EBS, SAP, integration teams, and including the customer teams as well. And finally, I got into the role of program manager, wherein managing the overall timelines across the teams, budget, scoping activities, and interactions across the teams as well. So, and currently I'm managing one of the telecom customers here in the UK, wherein we are doing the digital transformation, and we are actually working on the Salesforce Velocity implementation and the program of it. So another one quick thing that I wanted to highlight was I think I missed from the slides because I'm just talking in the flow. So I have also worked across the different roles as a starting from requirement gathering till the delivery till the even the service delivery management side of things. And we ensured 100% CSAT for almost 3 months in a row. And that is where we handed over the program to the customer back. So that is a quick snapshot into my journey. Now, going into the program management, the main topic for today, and just giving an example or a quick view into what is program management really in a very short way. So, handling a set of diverse teams, budget, scoping, and ensuring alignment to the end goal set by organization. So, this is what is really a program management task. So, before we go into further details on what the program manager does, I wanted to have a quick poll with all of you. And I wanted to cover our understanding of what is program manager. Is it really different from project manager and a product manager? So if you all could, provide your inputs like 1, 2, and 3. Yes, it is different. No, it's not. And third one is I feel it's the same, but don't know why they have different roles for same work. So, Smita, I think I'll just give like a minute or so for the attendees to present their options.
You can probably continue now. I guess people will move
Okay.
on here.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Yeah, because I can't see the result screen right now.
Okay.
Okay. So I think yeah. So probably will. Do we have certain inputs from the teams?
Yes, there's a mixed response. So a lot of people
Okay.
are saying there is a slight difference, but equal number are saying that no, it's pretty much the same. So
Okay. Okay.
definitely, yeah.
Great, great. So that is where I wanted to kind of have an understanding from our members, like what do they think about these roles. So what I have tried to do is basically give a pictorial representation of various similar sounding roles and what are the real differences between them. So, as you would all have heard about the different program delivery methodologies, right? May it be agile, may it be waterfall, or the hybrid way of working these days. So, if you talk about the waterfall side of things, then the project team is actually managed by your project manager. So in the waterfall world, the project manager is the person responsible for the project teams. However, in the agile side of things, the product owner or the product manager is the person playing a similar role to the project manager. And in the agile teams, as you would have already known, there is no concept of having a project manager role as such. So it's the product owner who decides on what are the priorities, what is the value that needs to be delivered to the customer as part of every release or every sprint. So, and in both the cases, the top layer, which ensures the coordination between these project teams, is actually the program manager. So, if there are any questions around these slides, please, I think you will be putting those in the chat, and then we can pick them up towards the end of this discussion.
Yes,
Okay.
that's right. So we'll
So,
post the questions to you at the end in the Q&A. You can
sure.
continue. Thanks.
Sure, thank you. So I'll go on to the next slide, and this is the most important thing now. So the key activities which are performed by a program manager. The one disclaimer that I would want to put as a program manager is that you are totally responsible for any success or failure on the program. So we have to be supremely careful of every action and interaction that we have. So I'll also be expanding upon each of these things, but then it's really important to strike a balance between customer expectations, program goal, delivery schedules, and the project team expectations. So it's a very fine line and a fine balance that needs to be established. So I'll go on to the program initiation part. So what I've tried to do is I have tried to bucket these program manager tasks into different buckets and different headings so that you all can easily relate to it. So there are different buckets that I've tried to put, which is program initiation, program planning, and program delivery. So let's go through them one by one. So on the program initiation part, the first thing that we need to do is defining a program goal. So the program manager is really responsible for aligning with the leadership, the IT heads, business heads, and even user groups to come up with the organization goals and set up or define a direction that the organization wants to really take up. So the program goal is really the final outcome or the end state that we want to achieve. Customer feedback or even the improvement areas that we have got from the customer, they play a very important role in defining this final goal on the organization. So just to give you a kind of a clear picture and an example of a program goal, for one of the industrial manufacturing customers, a B2B customer engagement that I've worked on, they had a very clearly defined goal of transforming the lives of their sales team by moving on to the cloud. They were on premise, they wanted to move to the cloud, and they wanted the ability to code faster for their customers by transitioning their almost 4,500 complex products onto the cloud with all the possible complex business rules, every pricing mechanism in place, discounting mechanism, approvals, and to launch it as a big bang approach for their almost 2,500 customers across the globe. So this is one of the most complex and the largest ever implementation that I have handled so far, and this was a very challenging engagement. So what I always tend to do, or what we really need to do, is we have to be detail oriented to be able to gauge the complexity of this kind of program and to be able to deal with so many moving parts and align them and knit them all together. So that's on the program goal setting. The next thing as a program manager that we do is defining the success criteria and the metrics. Again, program manager needs to align with different program stakeholders like the business units, the spokes from each of those BUs, to be able to get a predefined and agreed success criteria for the program. To give an example, like for one of the telecom customers here in the UK that we have managed, so we had a kind of a goal or a success criteria definition that we wanted to increase 80% system utilization for their internal users. So this was one of the targets which was given to us by the program steering committee. Then another example where we drove the program and improvements to the way sales users were configuring the products and driving the pricing and doing the quoting and also the ordering part of things. So the another the another goal which was set, or the success criteria which was told to us, was that we need to reduce the ordering cycles from 8 days to just 1 day, so including the transformation of every approval stage basically. So this was again a very set and a proper success criteria and metrics which was given to us. So such kind of clearly defined acceptance criteria is of prime importance to get these high complexity programs successfully delivered. The next stage, or the important stage, is the program sponsorship. So the program manager works with the stakeholders to get the program budget allocated, and also the program manager is responsible for getting the agreement to kickstart this endeavor from the program steering committee and from the sponsors. So these are the most important things that we do as part of the program initiation. Now going on to the program planning part of things. So for the program planning, the first thing that we do is the program scope definition. So a program manager works with the project managers to get the finalized scope aligning to the program goal that has been defined for their tracks. So it's project managers who really, plan their individual stream or technology scoping along with their teams and define their releases. But to knit through and to stitch through all the project manager and the project management team work, it's the manager's responsibility to put that overall plan, the program plan that we call, in place. The program manager needs to work closely with all these project managers and define the program releases, which would provide meaningful value or output to the customer. The next thing that we do as a program manager is program strategy and alignment now. So once the scope gets defined, it's the strategy to put the pen on the paper really and get the milestones planned on the implementation. We all know that various delivery methodologies like waterfall, agile, etc. But there are, as I already referred to, right? There are, I've seen in some of my previous programs, the customers also do prefer a hybrid way of working in strategy these days. So, for example, having their requirement gathering and design phases in the waterfall style, but managing the delivery, CIT, and SIT phases in an agile way. So it's the program manager that gets a buy-in really on all the overall program strategy, milestones, and way of delivery from the program steering committee. So also they are responsible to ensure the various teams involved within the ecosystem are perfectly aligned and adhering to the goals that have been defined for the program. The next thing is the program timelines. So, as per the budget which has been allocated by the program sponsor and the scope that has been finalized for the program timelines are charted out. These huge digital transformation programs can actually go for almost a year or even beyond. So, just to give an example of the program we did for a telecom customer in the UK, we had almost 6 releases planned or done over a span of almost 2 years, with 2 major releases rolling out the most complex functionalities and 4 medium complexity releases with incremental changes and upgrades, etc., planned over there. The next thing that we do is the delivery schedules. So once the overall program plan is defined, it's really the responsibility of the individual project managers to ensure adhering to the timelines. The program manager needs to ensure that the milestones defined and the scope defined for each of the releases or sprints is being met as per the commitments done to the stakeholders. So this is on the delivery schedules. Now moving on to the program delivery side of things. So as you can see, the team readiness and resourcing. Again, this is an important aspect we see as a program manager. Within the project teams, it's important for the project managers to be able to track the utilization and raise any issues that we see on the program level, in like meeting timelines or due to the resource crunch or skill gaps, etc. However, on the overall program level, it's the program manager's responsibility really to see what is the budget utilized for each sprint or release, whether we are over or under any resource gaps that we see on the whole program, any skill gaps, training requirements, rack status of the program, etc. So all of that is what the program manager does during this readiness check. Now, the next thing, and I've touched upon this point as well, but then the communication is the key for any program manager and a successful program implementation, really. So, as a program manager, we need to be able to clearly communicate how the program is progressing. We generally create weekly program steering committee report to share the status of the program, any upcoming and achieved milestones, any risks, any dependencies that we need immediate attention for from the program steering committee. And additionally, there are higher ups meeting that generally happen fortnightly for any of the programs. Also, what I generally prefer doing is to have a daily catch up with different project teams and their team managers to keep program in check. Again, it depends on how the program criticality is and how the program situation is at that point of time. The next thing that we is very very important is dependencies, charting out the dependencies. So while we handle these large scale programs, the ecosystem is really vast. You can see n number of teams participating in that end to end transformation. So starting from the data migration, the data cleansing, CRM teams, integration teams, CPQ, billing, testing teams, any of the vendor teams, or even the service providers, etc. Right. So all of these, there are a number of n number of possibilities, I would say, that one team is waiting for inputs from another, and even the scope and alignment of the delivery may be a bit clashing between the teams. So as a program manager, we need to be able to resolve and prioritize as per our program goal, and help to sort out any dependencies, clashes, etc. between the teams. So I generally prefer to get granular details from each of the teams to be able to resolve any issues coming our way. And as I mentioned at the starting, having a hands-on on the platform is really helpful. If you're a technical program manager, that takes you long way really. So the next one is managing program risks. So this is one of the critical parts of being a program manager, really. So complete success and failure is totally dependent on you. So it's important that you connect regularly with the teams involved in the program to be able to gauge if there are any potential risks that we are seeing on the program. The risk could be like scope creep, budget changes, losses, any resourcing issues, changing priority from the teams or even the customer. Then milestones are missed, sign offs are not received in time, etc. So in one of my previous programs, because of the complexity of the program, we had to literally reassess the whole program and change our program plan at least thrice. And this was a very big deal, like frankly speaking, from a program management standpoint. It's like once you get to a program plan, you shouldn't ideally be reiterating or creating the program plans, but we had to do. So these are the kind of unforeseen risks that you may see sometimes on the programs. So, but to get through to those risks, what are the mitigation plans, right? Any risk has to have any mitigation plan associated to it. It's the program manager's responsibility really to get the best solution out of these crunch times. So also we need to get a buy-in really and go ahead from the so it's the program manager cannot just have their own mitigation plans in place. It is the buy-in, the official buy-in is really needed from your program steering committee in case you want to implement any high risk mitigation for the program. So, for example, replanning of the scope is something that had to go through multiple iterations and multiple approvals from the steering committee that I was just now referring to. So, some of the other common mitigations for resources issues, there could be some challenges in terms of a particular team is not able to deliver in time. So, we generally what we have the mitigations are like to get a shadow team member to come up to speed and just take over as needed. So these are the common mitigation generally that we plan. Now, next one is handling program stakeholders sign-offs for the program milestones. So, as a program manager, you need to be able to assure the stakeholders that the value output is really being delivered and gathered from each of the release, and that the acceptance criteria which was defined for each of the release is really met. So, for example, exiting SIT with no high severity defects or exiting the UAT with no defects at all are such kind of criterias which I have faced in my previous programs. And each of the business unit involved in the program decision making would need to sign off on each and every milestone, and then only the program can proceed to the next milestone. So that's how the sign offs for the milestones play an important role. The next thing is, again, this could be a very specific terminology that you see here, which is the control tower setup. But as a whole, I'll just try to give you the gist of what we generally do. So now that the delivery of the scope is complete and you are towards the final stages of going into production, one of the key factors is to ensure a kind of a dress rehearsal done for the D-Day. So for my previous engagements, we used to call it the control tower setup, which was ensuring that the necessary customer setup for billing, test account setup, integration URLs, any pointings to different systems, end-to-end data set for testing, then any test scenarios which need to be executed are all completed before we go into the actual production and we can do the migration activities or deployment to the production. So it was a kind of a dress rehearsal on the pre-prod environments. So the program manager even plays a very important role in ensuring all these key activities are taken care of on the program. The next thing is finally, once you do the overall program delivery with all the stakeholders, everything is being coordinated, you also do have responsibility as a program manager post go live, really. So as a program manager, you need to get the feedback from each of the user groups, the stakeholders, to understand the resultant of the overall program, and if there are any kind of improvements, releases to be planned at the back of the go live. So that these are like majority of the activities that we do as a program manager. So now the next one that I wanted to specifically, I included this slide, was going above and beyond. So, although the breadth of my experience is obviously across delivery of these high visibility, business critical, and complex intertwined programs, but beyond that, it is actually across creating a segue for new business development. This segue is created not only by delivering on the ask, but also going that extra mile for your customer when they don't really anticipate it. So bringing that level of thought leadership and ensuring that not only blockers are removed from the day-to-day activities, but you are giving an added solutioning or upliftment to the program as a whole. So this value add and the thought leaderships are some qualities that as a program manager you must really have. And I would say in any of your roles that you're playing, right, that kind of additional push or additional extra effort towards the improvement would take you long way. So I'll just give you a quick example of how we managed all of this, right? So for one of the programs, what was happening was we were getting a kind of feedback that the internal users were not very comfortable using that system. So what we did was we introduced a progress bar along with some interactive messages and event-based step-by-step instructions in the system to assist the users. So this was technically for us a very small piece of work, but it actually yielded great results. The customers were extremely happy. So ideally, your customer should really view you as a trusted advisor, and you should put that extra effort on bringing improvements and stability to the platform. So this small additional work actually also gave us or paved a way into a whole new release on the improvements. from that customer, and we achieved a 80% user adoption on that improvement release. So this is just a small example on going above and beyond. And then finally, I wanted to also give you a view into the approach to handling different programs. So the approach that I generally follow, sorry, Smita, is it possible that you could tell me the time check, please? Or somebody could tell me?
So it's with 3 minutes to 5. So
Okay, perfect. So I'll just quickly wrap up here. Thank you. So finally, the approach that we generally take to handling different programs. So every time the approach would be different, really, based on how your customer is, what is the program methodology followed in the program, what is the complexity of that program, and what is the ecosystem or the landscape like. So you could go through all of these pointers. If there is anything that you want me to expand on, I can definitely do that. But as a customer, you need to be able to manage the customer expectation, have that balance of how the maturity or the model of is for the customer, and then take up the program planning approach that way. For the methodologies, we have already seen agile, waterfall, hybrid, and how the reporting is done on a daily basis. What are the complexity of programs? How are the budgets? How are the timelines? What is the goal? And finally, the ecosystem or the landscape. How many different teams are really involved on that program? How do you interact with all of them? What is the overlap of scope and other things? And the final thing that I want to just call out here, so any common challenges that we've seen in the programs are like basic things, right? The scope creep, not meeting the timelines. Resourcing is always a big challenge. Any kind of interdependencies not being met. So, as sign offs not being received. So, just to name a few, right? So, but the major point which I really feel a kind of a resolution is absolute transparency, and communication is the key, basically. So absolute transparency between the teams and working as a team will really take us a long way. So the resolution to most of these issues will be crystal clear communication, and the more we get together as a team, the better we can deliver. So with these thoughts, I would like to wrap up this conversation here, and I'm open to take up any questions now. And thank you so much for hearing me out so patiently. So thanks a lot.
thank you so much. Very interesting question. So we have some
Thank you.
questions in the chat window. So Mickey Tom, program manager should be more technical background. So what are your thoughts on that?
Correct. So, as I mentioned during my talk as well, so it always helps to have a technical background. So, again, the program ecosystem could be varied, right? You could have Salesforce program running, you could have SAP, Oracle, so many other teams also coming in picture. But if you have had some kind of an experience on those platforms, it will really help you to understand the nitty gritties of the overall transformation. So I totally agree that if the program manager is technical, it will be definitely a successful delivery, I would say.
Okay, thank you. And that was more in relation to the other roles that you had the poll on. So that was in relation to that.
Okay.
And another question that Mickey had was that how would you manage the program effectively if you have to work with another vendor and their resources other than your own company for the same program?
Correct, correct, perfect. So this is a good question because I've actually done that as well. So as I was mentioning, for one of our telecom customers, we had basically another vendor to the customer. So just rather than managing the internal tech M resources or the customer resources, they had another partner being brought in. And as long as you have a clear communication channel defined, and you know those basically it's more about having that kind of trust setup, really. So how I approached it was, first talking to those people, telling them what my role is and why am I there, right? So if there are any kind of challenges that coming in to their deliveries and that is causing an overall delay to our program, it should not be that we are directly approaching them with saying that no, this is because of you have not delivered, right? So it should be more about setting that overall positive environment on the program and ensuring that you are communicating equally and transparently, even if there are other vendor teams involved. So I think with that proper balance, the things can be easily managed.
Got it. Thank you, Shreya. So one question I had was that have you noticed any, in your experience, right? Have you noticed any difference in the sort of role that is based on the maturity of the organization? For example, can you say a mature organization would have a program manager, or maybe a younger or more in a different track, a different sort of organization may have a project manager? Would you say like that? I mean, have you seen anything in your experience?
Uh, that's actually, Smita, that's a very good question. I'm just thinking back at the different programs, right? So the US customer that I was talking about. So basically, for that we had a program, like basically that was more on the Salesforce, Oracle CPQ, EBS, Siebel, that kind of a background, and of course the integration teams involved in between. So what initially I was supposed to only be managing the Salesforce and the CPQ side of things. But then later on, once you get to know the customer, right, you get to know what are their plans, what are their strategies going about it. So then you can start giving your insights and adding that extra flavor, right? How you can improve certain things. So once they see you as your trusted advisor, they will get you into their inner circles, I would say. But initially, I mean, I have seen some challenges with the customers here in the UK, wherein we were not really able to push our way through. The customer had a specific way of delivering things, or some random requests coming into us, to the delivery teams as well, and then the delivery teams were like totally struggling. So it's like till the point you get a rapport build with the customer, you really cannot push your way through, even if you're trying hard and you're trying to do a better thing for the customer. So based on how the customer model is, or how the customer maturity is, and even within the teams, within the customer teams as well, we have to be very sure whether who to approach correctly, right? Like you may have certain nice transformation ideas, but then you approach a wrong stakeholder really, and then it just goes for a toss. So that is where you have to be really careful about while you are interacting with people, who are those right stakeholders to be referred to.
Shreya, that helps. Thank you.
Yeah,
Mira,
thank you so much.
over to you now, Mira.
Thank you, Smita.